It is evening
And
somewhere.
good morning. This is Don Emmett of the Money and More Show. And I'm going to be your occasional host. So Tommy Sikes, the founder of the Money and More Show, has graciously decided to open up the format. We're going to be bringing in myself and two other gentlemen, different expertise in the business and money world. So as we've been discussing, my expertise is in business ownership, entrepreneurship, business brokerage, and business management. So one of the things that I do to build my brand as a business broker and a business person in the Triangle is I have been working for the past year and a half with an online business publication called the Small Business Insights of the Triangle. You can take a look at what we do is we profile local business owners and we do a videotape interview of them. Nice snippets of about 15 to 20 minutes long, and you can go to the website for the Small Business Insights at sbicarolinas.com. It's S small, B business, I insights, Carolinas, plural.com. And see some of the interviews that I and some of my other colleagues have done with various businesses over the past few years. We've done a coffee roasting business, security business, wine, Chatham Hill Winery in Cary. We had a nice chat with the owners of that business and their event space. So we've met and interviewed some really great people, and so I'm looking to bring that endeavor into the within the Money and More format, umbrella, if you will. And once a month, I think the second Thursday of the month, I'll be borrowing Tommy's chair and doing my Small Business Insights, either having a live interview with a business owner in the studio, or we'll do something at their facility and bring it in on via a remote recording device. So today, for our inaugural radio broadcast, I have the pleasure of interviewing the owner and founder of Sikes Capital, Mr. Tommy Sikes.
Thank you, Don.
Tommy, welcome, and thanks for coming on to the Small Business Insights version of the Money and More Show.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you agreeing to do this. I think it'll bring a lot of extra mind knowledge to the show, some interesting topics and some new interviewees. I'm very excited to listen.
Okay. Good stuff. So why don't we get started? My typical first question is, tell us a little about Sikes Capital and the history. How did you get to being one of the premier portfolio managers and investment advisors in the greater Chapel Hill area?
Really, it's the world. It's the world.
Okay.
No. So Sikes Capital, and again, not to get, I don't want people's eyes to glaze over, but Sikes Capital as a firm is what's called a registered investment advisor, or RIA, and that's just to differentiate it from a brokerage firm or the big, what they call broker dealers, the big brokerage houses, basically. Registered investment advisors are regulated by the SEC to give investment advice, and one of the kind of cruxes of an RIA firm is that it cannot accept commissions of any type. So no product sales per se. You can manage portfolios, you can give advice, but the payment of services, you're not allowed for that to be a transaction based.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be, there's a fiduciary duty as an RIA that you must abide by, whereas most brokers, stockbrokers or quote unquote financial advisors are held to what's called a suitability standard, which means something just has to be suitable, but if there's two choices and one will pay them a bigger commission, there's no problem with them doing that without necessarily telling you up front. And again, it's not to make RIAs sound somehow special versus stockbrokers. It's just a different regulatory environment, and it's become very popular over the last few years. A lot of people leaving the traditional financial advising world and starting independent firms.
You still call them wirehouses? Is that?
Yeah, wirehouses is in the industry. That's what we always call them. But a lot of people,
That would be the Merrill Lynch's.
Merrill Lynch's, Morgan Stanley's, Wells Fargo Advisors. And I will say a lot of those firms now are what's called dually registered, meaning they saw the writing on the wall. And so now they have an arm that is also a registered investment advisor. But the problem comes in when you're sitting with an advisor from a firm. At what point are they the fiduciary who's giving you advice that's in your best interest versus taking that hat off and putting another hat on that says, hey, I think you should buy this, maybe it's a high commission insurance product because it's going to pay me
We got a
5 or
special,
7.
we're pushing
Right.
this fund this week.
Right, and so anyway, there's a lot of legislation going on right now. The Obama administration and Department of Labor are trying to pass, it'll probably happen this year, pass some new regulations so that the fiduciary standard, which is the highest standard, will be the standard, so that anyone giving financial advice will be held to a fiduciary standard as far as basically if someone would be able to come back and say, basically open suit, file suit to say, hey, you did this, but it was in your best interest, not mine, and have some.
All right,
Anyway.
so how did you get here?
So
tell us a little bit about the journey.
So that story, well, that's the reason I tell that story is that was the kind of a lot of the reason that I started the firm. I was at a wirehouse, came out of the technology industry, in corporate world, kind of what we talked about earlier. Was not real happy about that. I worked at IBM.
Oh, I've heard of that company.
Yeah, a small startup in the Triangle. Was at IBM and really enjoyed the work, but I did not enjoy a lot of the politics involved, or I was such a small fish in a big pond that I could do my personal job the best I could, but that might not, it might be for naught because the next quarter they might just get rid of the division or sell it off, or whatever. Anyway, long story short, looked at getting into the financial industry, and the easiest avenue is the brokerage world, the wirehouse world. Simply because they accept a lot of people, and it's kind of a sink or swim.
Churn and burn.
Yep, sink or swim scenario. Anyway, long story short, I did that, worked at a firm for about 3.5 years. While I was there, I learned a lot, great sales training, great product training for stuff for somebody who's not already in the industry. But I did not enjoy so much that you were expected to be a jack of all trades and kind of master of none. I really enjoy the investment side of things, individual stock investing in particular, and gotten more into private equity and private real estate recently. But I just looked at the scenario there and I said, hey, in 20 years I don't want to be doing this exact same thing. So I researched it and I found this thing called a registered investment advisor, RIA. And I was like, I've never heard of this. You basically own your own business. You're not beholden to any specific product or product line or company. You're not associated with a mutual fund company necessarily, or an insurance company. You can just give people advice or manage portfolios. You get paid directly from the customer, directly from the client. So it's not through the back door in any way. And see, it had a much more ethical feel to it to me. Plus, again, you get to control your own destiny. If you want to concentrate on just, small business owners and, small business retirement plans that say, hey, no problem. There's no corporate, entity somewhere else saying, oh, no, we need you to do more of this other thing, or you're not meeting these goals for us. And so talk about lifestyle businesses. earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big attraction to me, was the ability to control your own time, the clients you worked with, the type of advice you gave. And so anyway, in 2006, I started Sikes Capital, a registered investment advisor, and never looked back.
So let's get to some more, because my world is business, not necessarily, financial business. So, and in my world, many people come to me and say, well, have you ever sold a financial advisor business? Have you ever sold a graphics artist business? And I may or may not have, but I try to tell my clients that, well, all businesses are unique, but when it gets down to it, all businesses are a business.
Right.
Generally, there's a top line, there's a revenue component, there's a cost to deliver your product or service, then there's a myriad of expenses for delivering that service, and then there's a bottom line, what's left over. And what in our endeavor, my endeavor as a business broker, I'm offering a process. So getting into the more business processes. So tell me, I'm sure you'd mentioned some good training at the wirehouse you used to work for. What is Sikes Capital in terms of client acquisition? What is your strategy in terms of growing your practice and your business?
Currently, and really from the beginning, so I had a lot of clients that I developed through the wirehouse, and that was done old school, like knocking on doors, networking at groups, face-to-face meetings with people, some cold calling, which is not popular anymore. And I hated doing it, but it was a good trial by fire.
Got to do it.
Yep. And but I'll have to say, since Sikes Capital's been in formation, the majority of the business I get is through referrals, basically client referrals. And I, like a lot of businesses, I could certainly systematize it a lot better, make it again, not beat people over the head with it, but make it an actual process of the business, as opposed to, just kind of one-off, people randomly hear, or people will literally walk up to a client and say, who's your advisor? We're thinking about changing, and we just are curious who your person is. That's where a lot of the business comes from. I have started over the last, say, year or so, trying to do a little more online marketing, and by that I mean doing some videos, topical videos, or how-tos, or just frequently asked questions, and putting these not only on YouTube, but also on my website, so that hopefully it will generate some leads that way, so that somebody might search for Chapel Hill investment help or Chapel Hill investing, and hopefully one of those videos or one of those topics I've talked about would pop up, and again, it'd be an introduction to people.
So, see social media, big buzz in the business world today, and how it's utilized, and how the payoff, the return on investment for that, the time and effort you put into that, or whether you do it yourself or you contract it out. Are you able to measure the endeavors that you've done in terms of what clients or new engagements that is generated for you?
I don't know that I can measure it really objectively yet, although one of the beauties with using some of the electronic methods is you can see the number of people that have read a certain thing, or they've watched a video, or if I send an email out to a group of prospective clients, when I see that a specific person has opened a video, maybe it's a topical video, and this one person, everybody, maybe a bunch of people opened it, but this one person opened it 8 or 10 times. It kind of, to me, says, maybe I should casually follow up with this person. And so I've had some luck with that, because usually there's something that has happened, whether it's something personal, whether it's something in the markets, whether it's something with their existing advisor. but no, I haven't gotten into it to the point where I can say, well, if I spend, $1 on Facebook advertising or do this thing on LinkedIn, I know it generates this, this feedback. That I'm not to that point yet, but I certainly can see that happening.
So it looks like Sikes Capital has an anniversary this year. You started in 2006.
That's right.
Clock on the wall tells us that it's 2016.
Thank you for. I'm not good with numbers. I'm glad you did that for me. I'm kidding, of course. Yes, you're right. It is. It's August, or actually I should say June. June is when we incorporated.
So we look forward for that the big anniversary party.
Big gala. Yes, big gala.
So in that 10 years, looking back, what might you have done differently, or sooner, or later, or in the process of building Sikes Capital?
I would say I wish I had jumped on board the online marketing stuff earlier. I knew about it and I dabbled in it, but I didn't really commit to doing anything. And again, I'm not talking about like building an online business necessarily. I just mean the ability to communicate with people via the internet, the ability to, again, have videos and other things where people could, it's a huge leverage point where you can have an introductory video maybe on your website, and literally 50 people could be watching it at the same time and you can be asleep at your house. And it's just a way to again, leverage yourself. Yeah. And I wish I had done a more concentrated effort of that. From a business standpoint, I wish I'd learned a little more about the things that higher net worth investors are typically more interested in, which is a lot of deals. You mentioned the word deals earlier. Whether it be private business ownership or private equity, private real estate, partnerships and things like that. I knew generally about them, but I kind of put them in my mind in the same bucket with just hedge funds and that kind of things, which always have a negative connotation. And I wish I'd learned more about that, because that seems like it's a great opportunity that would have helped the business grow a little quicker.
Looking back in all the people that have perhaps mentored you or helped you in your business career, what can you say was the best piece of business advice that you've ever received?
I don't know if I can say specifically who said it.
We're on the air, so try to keep it clean.
Okay, I will. But just the learning is in the doing. So that you can study something, whether it be investing wise, or marketing wise, or business wise, but the learning really happens when you put it in action. The quicker you can make the transition from studying, listening to podcasts, reading books about things, to putting it into action. I've had a bad habit of I know enough now, but I think I need to learn a little bit more. And all you do is delay the real learning, which is when the rubber hits the road.
Avoid the paralysis by analysis syndrome.
Yep, exactly.
And I guess to wrap up, as my favorite question, what's of most interest to me, is what, if any, is there an exit strategy for Sikes Capital at some point?
Honestly, and it's just bad to say, but I don't really have an exit strategy at this point. Mm-hmm. Now, I do know that I want to get into other things, and whether those other things would involve an exit of my firm, I don't know. It's a great cash flow business. It's a recurring revenue business. So from that standpoint, if it ain't broke, I'm not trying to fix it necessarily, but down the road, branching out into other things, or using the cash flow from this business maybe to do something else.
So it might be more of an acquisition then model than an exit model at this point.
Yeah, at this
time.
point, yes, I would say that's the more likely scenario.
Well, Tommy, thanks for opening up your airways and your microphone, and sitting in with us for the first episode of the Small Business Insights here at WCOM LP in Chapel Hill and Carborough.
I appreciate it, Don. We'll see you next time.
All righty. See you next week, where we have a new host that's going to be sitting in with Tommy in the transitionary phase.